Well, always great to chat with this guy. As you can see, if you're on Q Sports Talk with us, he is Kyle McCord. Tell us where you are here, Kyle. First off, thanks for coming on. You're in the new building that we all got a glimpse of earlier this week.
Yeah, a year too late, but I figured, I might as well use it for the month or two that I'm here training for the draft.
Yeah, I'm glad to see all the technology and everything works in there as well, so you could hop on there with us. And, man, what a whirlwind this must have been for you here for the last 2 months, right, from deciding to go to the draft and, Shrine Bowl and Combine and all this stuff. Have you had a moment to catch a breath here over the last couple months?
It's been wild. They say it's really 2 years of straight football, going from your last year of college and then into training for the draft. And like you said, it's definitely a marathon, going from the All-Star game to the Combine to Pro Day, and then now meeting with teams and visits and all stuff like that. So it's been a lot, but it's been fun, just enjoying the process.
All right, let's take this back to January and kind of go in order here. The last time I think we talked was before the bowl game. Obviously, you guys played great and won the Holiday Bowl. Then you're waiting on this waiver, right, and end up making the decision to go to the draft before that came in. What was that process like for you, waiting for an answer that you never got, but deciding what you wanted to do anyway?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a weird situation. Obviously, if you do get the waiver back, there's a decision to be made, but you don't even know if you'll get that extra year. So it was kind of weighing options, and you didn't even know if you had that option. But ultimately, I've said this before, Coach Fran called me. I was going back and forth, didn't know what I wanted to do. And he was like, listen, if I'm you, I'm leaving. He was like, after the year you had and the position you put yourself in for the next level, it just, it makes sense to go. And, definitely that made my decision easier. But at the same time, it wasn't an easy decision at all.
Yeah, I think back to, after Syracuse won the basketball title in 2003, Melo was pondering the idea of coming back, and Jim Bam was like, dude, get out of here. What are you doing?
Yeah.
The fact that Fran had your back on it, how much easier did that make the thought process for you?
Yeah, there's probably nobody in the world that wanted me to come back to Syracuse more than he did. And then, so to hear him say, go to the NFL and chase that dream of yours, I think just kind of put everything into perspective. I think that's a perfect representation of our relationship, that even though me coming back would probably benefit him, he wanted to have my best interest. And so just getting the green light from him and, just that advice, I think, helped me a lot in that process.
And remove the probably from benefit him. It would absolutely have benefited Fran to have his starting quarterback back for another year. And we'll get into what you've seen about the young guys around campus here in a bit. But so that happens. Off to the Shrine Bowl. You got nothing but glowing marks down there from the practice time. You were named, the practice player of the week and all the stuff down there. What was that experience like? You're working with NFL coaches. You're working with fellow future draftees. What did you take out of that whole event?
Yeah, it's a unique kind of situation down there. Obviously, like you said, working with NFL coaches, and then on top of that, playing with some of the best players in the country as well, and you're running an NFL offense. And so you kind of have to do a lot of studying, and on top of that, there's meetings and interviews, and they keep you pretty much busy from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. But it was a great experience, and I think it's a good first taste of what the next level is like in terms of playbooks and speed of the game and reads and all that. And it was a lot of fun. And on top of that, being down there, I think there was 5 Cuse guys that were down with me as well. So it was a good deal.
Yeah, always good to have one of your wideouts and your tight end to throw the ball to in those practices as well, with Jackson Arande down there with you. And you mentioned the NFL playbook. I'd say Jeff Nixon's playbook, as far as college playbooks go, right, is about as NFL-y as you're going to get. How much did that help your transition to what you're learning right now?
Yeah, a lot of the meetings, that's what all the coaches want to know is, what was your, pre-snap responsibilities at the line, and what were certain reads on certain plays, going back and watching the film. And so going through a year with Coach Nixon, I think helped me tremendously. And I think that offense is about as close as you can get as, getting ready for the NFL. Obviously, he was in the NFL, so a lot of the stuff we were running came from the teams he was with there. So it's making my life a lot easier now, everything that he put on my plate during the season.
We got Kyle McCord with us. So after that, you got about a month, a little less than a month, and you're at the Combine. What is that zoo like in Indianapolis? I mean, literally everybody that has anything to do with the NFL's at this thing. What was that few days like for you?
Yeah, obviously grew up watching it, and all you get to see on TV is the throwing session. But that's probably the most the most fun part when you're down there. I mean, I think we threw Saturday, and I got there Monday around noon, and from medical stuff with X-rays and MRIs and CT scans to interviews with a bunch of teams and media stuff. It's it's quite the experience, and when you get back to your house on Sunday after you're in Indy for that whole week, that rest is definitely well deserved.
And I imagine, too, like, we all see the throwing part, right? And you did great in that. That's probably the part that matters the least, right? Like, the guys there all know you can throw the football. It's like you just got to go out there and kind of check that box, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't realize, like, I think that puts the whole process into perspective kind of perfectly. I mean, I think that from the outside, you'd think that the throwing matters the most, but then once you're there, like the coaches, they want to just sit down and talk football with you. They want to get to know you. They want to make sure that all your medical stuff is looking good. And then, like you said, the throwing part is really, in my opinion, just for like the TV, and it's kind of a show. And so everything is kind of leading up to that, but at the same time, I think the stuff before that is probably a little more important.
All right, so you do a bunch of the team meetings there. You always hear these stories about some of these teams will ask like the weirdest, most bizarre questions that got nothing to do with anything. Did you get any of those, or were you doing mostly football talk?
It was mostly football talk. Yeah, I mean, my best story, I went in for a meeting, and, pretty typically it starts out, saying what's up to all the coaches and, stuff like that. And then they'll install one of their plays in their terminology. And then, at the end of the meeting, they're going to ask you to install it back. So just memorizing what they're putting up on the board, and then start watching film. And usually it's, a mix of, some good plays and then, a bad play here or there. And so the first play was a misread. Had a guy up in the flat, forced it down the field, and I was like, okay, talk through that one. And then the next play was an interception. I was like, all right, the good play's got to be coming up at some point. And then next play was another interception, and then the play after that was a sack. And so I was like, all right, I see where this is going. So it was about a 15-minute meeting of just all my worst plays from the year, and then got to get up and draw up the play. But no, it was funny. And then literally as soon as the meeting ended, they were like, oh man, that was great. That was a lot of fun. Like appreciate you coming by. And I was like, yeah, it was great. I enjoyed that. So yeah, it's kind of funny seeing each team's approach in those meetings.
You're aware I did throw some touchdowns as well this year, right? If you like, this was not fun at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through those meetings. I mean, you always see the videos. I mean, the Giants had that Hard Knocks last year where you got a little view of like what Jaden Daniels was going through. Like, what is that like when you get a play in terminology that you may never have heard before, and you got to spit that thing back out 10 minutes later?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes some practice. So when I was training for the draft out in California, we do like mock combine interviews to where we're getting an install from an offense that we don't know, and then they'll put you up on the spot, and you got to talk for 10-15 minutes, and they're going to try to ask you some weird questions and get you out of your comfort zone, and then right before you think you're done, you got to go up and drop that play. So it definitely takes some practice, and there's a few tricks to being able to pick it up a little quicker, but yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
All right, so you do all that. We got Kyle McCord with us. Your pro day here at Syracuse was this past Monday. And, again, it's probably, did you really need to throw there? Probably not. Like, everyone's seen you throw the football. How important was that for you, though? You're helping out your other guys, Jackson, Arande, guys to get seen. What's that process like, and, taking care of your guys at that event?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have opportunity, especially with, your own guys, and, at your own school, and you have a chance to go out and throw, I'm going to take that opportunity 10 times out of 10. And, my quarterback coach kind of put it, in perspective. And he's like, right before we went out to go throw, he was like, huddled all of us up, and he's like, this is really the last thing you guys are going to do together in Syracuse uniform. Obviously wearing like the pro day shirts and all that together. So just going out with a bang, and obviously had a lot of success with those guys during the season. So it was fun, just one more time, even if it was against air and not really real football, but it was a lot of fun.
All right, the draft is, about 4.5, 5 weeks out here as we're looking forward. What do you do now till then? How much are you flying around the country for meetings? Is it workouts? What happens now till then?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Zoom meetings and, get on for an hour and talk to teams, and then visits, and, teams will come here for private workouts, and, just pretty much all over the spectrum in terms of, what you have. And so your schedule is a little unpredictable. Like a team will schedule a visit for you, and have a few days in advance just to let you know, and then you're flying to that city. So it's definitely quite an experience, but it's all part of the process. So this is kind of the last quarter. Kind of viewed it as the first part was the All-Star game and the combine, and then the pro day, and now this is the last piece, and arguably one of the most important pieces.
Yeah, what are you hearing out there? What's the word on you on the street? I mean, we're heavy into mock draft season. We hear about Cam Ward. We hear about Shadur Sanders. The last few days, the hot name is Jackson Dart. Obviously, the trickle down affects you as well. What do you hear about your prospects out there?
I mean, I honestly have no idea. I mean, these NFL teams do a good job of keeping that information close in their circle. So I don't really get involved in all those mock drafts and stuff like that. My view is that, like, if I don't have any idea of where I'm going, like, how does someone from the outside world know? So you see you get tagged and stuff every day, but I have no idea. And I think that's what makes the process so interesting is you really have no idea until you see your name and get that phone call. So I'm excited, and just trying to take advantage of every opportunity that is still coming up.
All right, my Giants still need a quarterback. They haven't done anything, so I'll toss that out there to you, Kyle. Your Jets got an Ohio State guy. They got Justin Fields,
yep.
So they've taken care of that. What are you doing for the draft? Have you come up with plans? What is your plan for that weekend?
It's just going to be a small little party. It's going to be just close family and a couple really good friends. And like I don't need somebody that I haven't seen in 8 years peeking over my shoulder trying to see who's calling me and where we're going. So it's going to be a small group, and then once that's over and I know where I'm going, I'll probably have a bigger party for all the people that I grew up with and stuff like that. Probably the day after. So it'll be a good deal. But I'll be relieved once that whole process, that whole couple days is over.
Yeah, once you get the answer, then you can get to work. I guess it's different, right? Like if you're a top 10 pick, you can bring everybody over and do that. Like when you're not quite sure, right? You don't want to be just grinding on it, right, for hours and hours upon end.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to kind of look ahead and think about all the possibilities, but at the end of the day, like a lot of that is out of your control, and so just focus on what you can control, and it's having great meetings and great workouts, and just putting one good day on top of the other.
All right. Give us your quick view on the current Syracuse football team going forward. Obviously, there's going to be a quarterback battle this spring to replace you. You got any early insight, any vibes of what's going on in the building you're sitting in right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be at practice as much as I can, and I think their first one is tomorrow, actually. So I'll be there for that. And then, I'm excited though. Obviously, we played with a few of the guys last year, like Mike and Jakari, and then I know they brought in a couple really talented freshmen, and then Ricky as well from LSU. So it's gonna be a good battle. I know that everybody in the building is excited about kind of that next step, and I think obviously quarterback is open, but there's a lot of other positions that are open too. And I think the best thing though is there's talent across the board. Maybe not as much experience as we had last year, but at the same time, I think that's the exciting part is you know that there's going to be a good player regardless of who fills in that role.
Yeah, will be a very different spring, certainly, than when we knew the deal with you going through it last year. Either way, we look forward to that. We look forward to what happens to you coming up in a month, Kyle. Appreciate the time as always, and I'm sure we'll touch base when you figure out where you're going next. But thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.